Welcome into the Saturday Conversation. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Rod Babers and CJ Vogel of On Texas Football. Good morning, everyone. This episode of On Texas Football brought to you by the folks at MyBookie. Make sure you're in the game with MyBookie. In the game of the day nationally, as well as in Austin, Texas, are the Texas Longhorns and the Georgia Bulldogs. Texas guys on ABC 6:30. 5-point favorites right now, according to MyBookie. 56.5 points over. I look at this, and I don't care what the point spread is. It's going to be a game where the team that executes the best probably wins. The team whose quarterback plays the best probably wins, because the supporting cast of both of these teams are elite, in my opinion. We'll go over our scores, et cetera, but let's talk about this game first. Rod, I'm going to pitch it to you and ask you, who has the advantage here, Texas or Georgia? Whose offense do you think will be a little bit more powerful, maybe?
I think Texas has the better offense overall in terms of the offensive line. I think that's an advantage Texas has, and that's big in any SEC matchup. The quarterback position right now, I think maybe that's a push right now. Carson Beck, his last 10 quarters, he's playing some really, really high level football, and he pushes the ball vertically down the field. I mean, Georgia's they're top 10 and actually top 5 in passing plays of 20 plus yards and 30 plus yards. He likes to throw the football downfield. So kind of different. Wide receiver, I'll give the edge to Texas, but if Isaiah Bond doesn't play, then, that's not as big of an advantage. So I think Texas has the advantage offensively, but you're going up against the strength of Georgia and the calling card of Kirby Smart, which is a Kirby Smart defense. Although they don't have a true identity like they have. We talked about this in years past. They're below average in takeaways and sacks and tackles for loss. But I do think, in the red zone, that to look at touchdown percentage in the red zone, that type of defense, that's where actually they bow their back a little bit. But Texas this year is elite in red zone offense. They're top 10 in the country in red zone offense. So it's an interesting, compelling matchup. I give the edge to Texas because I think the Texas defense going up against the Georgia offense, it will be tested. I think ultimately that's the best defense in the country. I think they'll prove themselves in this game. And I think that could end up being the difference in the matchup if the defense of Georgia and the offense of Texas ends up kind of, obviously canceling each other out, if you will.
I got to ask you this before I pitch to CJ, is this, you're a defensive back guy, Rod. Mm-hmm. You think the Texas secondary is ready for Georgia? Because this will be, and I talked about it on Texas Football during the week. Yeah. This will be the beginning of a kind of gauntlet of quarterbacks that Texas will face the second half of the season. Not just Carson Beck, but Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt's been playing well. They've got Taylon Green from Arkansas coming up. Connor Wegman played well against Mizzou a couple weeks ago. And then you obviously have DJ Lagway, the really talented freshman from Florida. These will be 5 of the 6 best quarterbacks they played over the next 6 weeks. What do you think the Texas secondary can hold up against these guys?
I do, but we don't have evidence of that yet. This is the first game we'll get evidence of if they're going to, because Georgia will push it deep. You go look at it. I saw this stat. He's got 6 touchdowns passing the ball 20 yards or more, only 1 interception. That's more touchdowns than he's got throwing to the short or the intermediate area of the field. And it's fewer interceptions than he's got throwing to the short or intermediate of the field. He's thrown 41 deep passes so far this year. That's a lot. Texas only defended 16. They haven't defended. A lot of teams haven't thrown it. Hell, how about this stat? Michigan, Oklahoma, and ULM are all bottom 5 in the country and all of the FBS in passing plays of 20 yards or more. And that's half your schedule. That is essentially the passing offense you face. So this will be quite the challenge. I think they're up to it, but you're right. They got twitchy athletes on the outside who can make plays and yak opportunities in the open field and deep down the field on contested catches. And you got an NFL quarterback you got to deal with. I can't wait. It is the true test for the Texas defense, no doubt.
What about you, CJ? You feel Texas up to the task here later today?
I do. I like Texas to win this game. I'd like this defense to stand up. I like this offensive line to protect Georgia's. We've talked about it throughout the week. This isn't a Georgia defense that we've seen lead Georgia to national championships. They're good. They're top 25 defense, but it's not a defense that's going to suffocate you. It's not a defense that's tremendous at forcing turnovers. They're 110th there. And it's not a great defense at tackling behind the line of scrimmage, right? They're 80th near 79th, I believe, in creating sacks this year, and that's without Mykel Williams for most of the year. Now, if he's able to suit up and play more snaps this week, that's going to change things. He's only played 17 snaps over the last 2 games, so that high ankle sprain that he suffered against Clemson, it's lingered and it's hindered his ability to get after the passer. If he's able to go against this Texas defensive line or offensive line, it's going to change things. With that said, this defense doesn't create turnovers, and without Mykel Williams, they don't really do a whole lot behind the line of scrimmage. That's really where you keep Texas behind the change. Is if it's not Texas committing penalties, finding ways to create tackles for loss against this Texas offense is how you keep them off the field or get them off of the field. If you're unable to do that, I have a hard time seeing them stop this Texas offense at home with that home crowd behind them. I like Texas to score and score a lot, honestly.
So you think Texas needs to stay ahead of the chains?
Absolutely.
And can stay ahead of the chains against the Georgia defense that, to date at least, has not had a lot of tackles for loss comparatively. Okay.
Well, they're 40th in pass rush and 45th in rush defense. So they're not great at either. They're good, but again, it's not the Georgia defense that we've seen in years past.
Right. I think that's what we all kind of get. They have good players. There's, we talked about, between the two teams, 70 plus NFL future players. I mean, they've got players. The question is whether or not they're actually those guys that are making big plays in big moments and creating those tackles for loss. All right, CJ, you went with Texas. I'm going with Texas too. My score prediction is 33-30. So I don't think Texas covers, but I'm telling you, I think this is going to be a little barn burner in DKR later tonight. The cool weather will not be cool at around 9 o'clock when this thing heats up inside DKR. CDC has the drones flying, and it's going to be a tight game in the fourth quarter. Expect some fireworks from both teams. Again, I really believe, Rod and CJ, whichever quarterback plays better and is better set up for success, because I think that's part of it too. That team wins this game because, look, Texas has been the nation's #1 defense, but y'all both pointed it out. They haven't proven it against anybody that's legitimate yet, right? Even if you thought Michigan might be that team, but clearly not. You thought Oklahoma might eventually be that team, but they made a QB change that it went nowhere. And so they've literally seen no one. I guess Louisiana Monroe's 5-1, whatever that means, right? But that's far from a excellent offense. I mean, they've went to their backup over the guy that started against Texas themselves. So I go 33-30 in this game. So Texas does not cover, but they do win, and that's the only thing that matters in this game, probably for the Longhorns as it relates to them going forward. Rod, what did you have in this game?
Yeah, I've been in the low 30s. I've been hovering around 31. Seems to be a sweet number. 31, maybe 20, 31-24 feels right. 31-24 feels right.
You think they're going to hold them a little bit more than I do? The defense. Yeah,
I do. I got some faith in his defense. But like I said, it's faith. I don't have the evidence actually that they're an elite defense, but everything that I've seen, it does track that the improvement is substantive, that it's real. To me, I think it is real. So I'll go 31-24.
CJ, what about you, buddy?
Yeah, I started a very similar score to that at the beginning of the week, and it's risen almost every single day. I thought
which way which way is it risen? The Georgia
total. I think there's going to be more points. So okay. the differentiator, the score difference, that remains the same. I like Texas 38-27 in this game. That 11-point difference, I like it. I feel really comfortable in that. I think Texas scores at home. I think that this defense stands up. The crowd gets into it. The difference is on Monday and Sunday earlier this week, Bobby, I had this game probably around 28-20. And since then, I found ways that I think Texas will gain yardage. I think that Georgia will have to throw the ball and rely on those playmakers. I still don't think that this is a Georgia offense that has that one or two guys. Maybe Arian Smith is the one that you have to be really cognizant of when he's on the field. Aside from him, I'm not sure that there's been a Georgia-level George Pickens or Ladd McConkey that we've seen in years past for Georgia. Carson Beck does throw the ball down the field beyond 20 yards, the third most in the SEC. That's only behind Jackson Dart and Garrett Nussmeier. So they do like to huck the football. Do they have the guys that can create separation against a Texas secondary? That's my big question. That's why I like this Texas defense, 38-27. We got that locked in. I'm feeling good about this one.
Locked in. I tell you what, you young guys have some bravado. I am lacking. I'll just put it that way. I'm the old guy that whispers the score very quietly because I'm not sure what's going to happen, right? But I do think that Texas has the team to beat Georgia, but like any game, I think the ball could bounce either way, man. I really do believe that. All right, let's look a little further and deeper into the SEC. Now, this segment brought to you by our friends over at MyBookie. We've got a lot of games to go over here. I mean, good games, guys. LSU, Arkansas, Bama, Tennessee, A&M goes to Mississippi State, South Carolina goes to Oklahoma. But let's talk about MyBookie real quick. This segment is sponsored by our friends at MyBookie. With all the excitement of this season, make sure you're in the game with MyBookie. Bet any matchups, hundreds of college player props, and take advantage of weekly risk-free bets. The best part is you can do it all, anytime, anywhere, straight from your phone. Visit mybookie.ag and use promo code ONTexas to get started. It's MyBookie's 10th year anniversary, and they're rolling out the red carpet for bettors. Bet big and bet confidently with risk-free Thursdays. If your boosted bet doesn't hit, you'll get your money back. Weekly no sweat win-win bets all season long. And sign up now using code ONTexas to cash in on a double deposit bonus. It's a no-brainer. Double the cash in your account before you even place your first bet. But do not wait because it's only available for a limited time. For those of you who've been playing with MyBookie previously, they've got something special for you too. A brand new loyalty rewards program in MyBookie Plus. It's simple. The more you play, the more you earn. And as you progress through the tiers, unlock exclusive promotions, epic giveaways, and cash back in your account. All right, guys, we gotta choose which game to go to first. And I'll tell you what, the one that intrigues me the most is the one that Texas doesn't play either team. It's Bama going to Tennessee. And so I don't want to spend too much time because it's not a future Texas opponent or a previous one. But Bama goes to Tennessee. Tennessee coming off that loss to Arkansas and then beating Florida in overtime at home. Bama favored by 3. This game 2 years ago was one of the better college football games of that season. You remember that? What do y'all think? This is the 2:30 game on ABC before the Texas game. So this will be playing into the Texas game. What do y'all think of Bama versus Tennessee?
I hope this game doesn't go late. And I think it might. I think it might. I think there's a good chance for overtime. It's going to be a close game. It's a weird spot for both teams. It's a loser leaves town in terms of the SEC championship game. If you lose this game, you're done. You're not going to Atlanta. There's too many teams with one loss or no losses ahead of you. The stakes are going to be high. These teams don't like each other. Problem is neither offense has really been clicking. Neither team's really been clicking since each suffered a loss 2 weeks ago. Alabama probably could have lost to South Carolina. Tennessee, you could argue, should have lost their game a week ago. A big prove-it spot for both teams. Loser, again, leaves town. I don't know who I like specifically. I think I'll go with Jalen Milroe, the more talented quarterback in this game. But neither team's playing very well right now. That's for certain.
Yeah, I hear you on that, man, because, look, I'm looking at Tennessee right now, guys. They literally have not scored 25 or 20-plus points in regulation in SEC play, except for when they scored 25 against Oklahoma. And that came because of 2 Jackson Dart turnovers inside the Oklahoma 20. You know, at least 10 of those points did.
Yes.
So, you know, my take on it, Rod, and I'll get your feedback, is I think Alabama can score. They just have a propensity to turn the ball over.
Yep.
And so, you know, a 27-24 matchup here. 31-20. If it gets in the 30s, I pick Alabama. If it stays in the 20s, I might lean to Tennessee.
I like
What do you
that.
think, Rod?
Yeah, Tennessee's run defense is one of the better run defenses in the country, but the Alabama run game is so unconventional because it's built around the legs of Jalen Milroe, who's just a freak, right? So I don't know if their rush defense, if it translates in this matchup as well. And I love the big play component with Jalen Milroe because he chunks the ball deep. You documented that last year, CJ, when in the college football playoff when he was there. I mean, he was chunking the ball deep a ton, and that's still one of his, I think, one of his X-Man abilities. It's like one of his elite traits. He's got a great deep ball. So I just feel like, they'll be able to generate more offense if they need it. And there seems like there's a blueprint out on Tennessee right now. And they don't have a great running game, and it seems like there's a blueprint on how to defend Tennessee because they're having some trouble, getting productivity in a lot of areas of that offense. So I would take Alabama, and history says take Alabama, of course, against Tennessee. I think here's the stat that I found. Tennessee is since 2007, 2-41 against AP top 10 opponents, 1-16 against Alabama. So it's a proven game for them. But they don't often beat Alabama, and they don't beat top 10 teams either.
So who y'all taking? Y'all taking Tennessee or Alabama?
I'm taking Alabama.
I think that makes 3 of us, guys. I'm going to go that direction. Next one I want to talk about is the 6 o'clock game on ESPN. That's LSU going to Arkansas. LSU, big win last week, no doubt, against Ole Miss in overtime. Game looked like it was over, and Garrett Nussmeier led the Tigers back. Arkansas still excited about their win over Tennessee a couple weeks ago, and they are getting back their quarterback, Taylon Green, for this matchup. Yet LSU's favored by 2.5, according to my bookie in this game, going to Arkansas in Fayetteville. Now, I'm taking Arkansas in this game.
Oh man!
And I know that's neither here nor there in some respects, but LSU just has been a different team away from Tiger Stadium than they have been at home. Garrett Nussmeier has been a different quarterback. And I think Arkansas right now, I don't want to say they're a team of destiny. I'm not using that term, but the improvement they have seen in offense year over year is palpable. And it's playing and it's giving their defense more confidence, and they're flying around again a little bit more with their hair on fire rather than taking it on the chin every day. You know what I mean? Because their offense is at least moving the ball enough that they know they're getting some value. And I think Arkansas, actually, their first string defense, they don't have the depth of their teams. Still pretty good. I'm going to go with Arkansas over LSU in Fayetteville. Guys, Rod, you go for it.
I know this one is it's kind of a toss-up for me, honestly. I feel like it could go either way. I like them getting Taylon Green back. I mean, he's just a playmaker too. I feel like that gives them a little bit of an advantage getting him back. He's one of 2 Power 4 quarterbacks with 1,500 yards passing, 300 yards rushing. He's got a nice deep ball too. They open up the offense when he's there. I like the Arkansas rush defense too a little bit. I'm going to go with Arkansas. It's a toss-up for me, but I'll go with the team that's at home getting their quarterback back. It could go.
What about you, CJ?
We might be really chalky, guys. Whoever picks one, we all pick, because I'm going with the Pigs too. And it's as simple as this. If Arkansas turns the ball over, they lose. If they hold on to the football and they protect it, they win. They should be, and they have a case for being 6-0, right? It was 2 really bad turnovers from Taylon Green and Dallas that prevented them from defeating Texas A&M, and it was 3 turnovers really against Oklahoma State that allowed the Pokes to come back and win that game in double overtime, in which I believe they held about a 20-point lead at some point. Arkansas is a legit team. This game at night, also very terrifying for another SEC marquee matchup. That's one of the reasons why I don't feel as cautious or nervous or scared to go into Fayetteville and play in Arkansas in a few weeks at 11 a.m. If that game was at night, I think I'd be trembling in my boots a little bit more. That's why I'm nervous for LSU, and that's why I like the Pigs in this game. Is night games in Fayetteville, tough spot to play. You get some momentum, got a good offense. I like Arkansas.
That game again at 6 o'clock on ESPN, so it'll be going on the same time as the Texas game if you want to channel surf a little bit during timeouts. A couple other games in the SEC that I want to mention. Kentucky Florida. Texas plays both those teams. Kentucky currently favored by 1.5, even though the game's in the swamp. And then also South Carolina, Oklahoma. Listen to the over on this game for South Carolina, Oklahoma, 41.5.
Yeah.
I mean, they're thinking it's going to be like 21-20, basically 23-17, something like that. Let's start with OU because obviously they're coming off the loss to Texas. There's been some chatter that maybe they might be moving around their quarterback situation again. Maybe. What do they do? I mean, do they just tuck tail and run on this season? Because that's kind of what it looks like to me right now.
Yeah. I mean, they dug their grave. You know, you bench Jackson Arnold. He says, I'm done with this. You know, he's probably not going to take another snap at Oklahoma again this year or maybe ever, right? And that's kind of what you get whenever you bench him in the second quarter against Tennessee if you're Brent Venables. And to think that you have your guy, clearly you don't, behind a bad offense line and some injured wide receivers, you're in a tough spot. That offense was the worst I've ever seen for a Texas OU game on the Oklahoma side. And moving forward, why am I to believe that it's going to get any better? Could it be with guys coming back? Sure, but you still have a bad offense line. You still have an inexperienced quarterback. You still have a guy in an offense that's built around stripping down what you knew coming into the year to rolling out, finding ways to move the pocket and rely on the legs of Michael Hawkins. It could work against South Carolina, but they're still an SEC caliber defense. I don't know how they're going to score more than 14 points in this game. It's going to have to take another defensive turnover or short fields, as we know, they turn the ball over. They force turnovers better than anybody in the country. Defense is going to have to carry because this offense is very incompetent. I like South Carolina here.
Boy, I love the word incompetent because that's what it looked like to me. Maybe Texas made them look incompetent. Though.
Sure.
Rob, what do you think?
Yeah.
Tell me you feel bad for the Sooners.
I don't feel bad for, but it's hard to believe in that offense at all, man. I still remember when Kirk Herbstreit said the quiet part out loud during the game. He was like, "I don't see how Oklahoma's going to score," and I was like, "Damn, who says that?" Out? And he was just out of ways to describe how bad the offense is. I don't see how they're going to score at all. I'm not joking. I can't see it. I can't. I don't know.
Unless it's a pick six like they did against Auburn.
None offensive touchdowns. Damn it! We can't all pick the same games all the time. No, it changed that Arkansas pick I picked. I'm taking LSU, damn it. And now I'm gonna take South Carolina. I'm flipping it. I'm gonna take LSU because we picked the same. I'm gonna take LSU on that one because that was a coin flip for me. And then I'll take South Carolina in this one with CJ.
You just want to be different, Rod B.
We gotta be different. We can't be picking the same game.
What about Kentucky, Florida? I just want to mention we don't have to go into it very deeply at all. But I did want to say the thing that's interesting there to me is Kentucky just lost to Vanderbilt. Man, is the final score of this game maybe going to be like 10-9? I mean, Kentucky plays really good defense. Florida has a freshman quarterback that is extraordinarily talented. I mean, has a absolute hose for an arm and can run really well. But, I mean, Florida is just not very good offensively.
No.
And this is a guy that's now going to be asked to move the ball every down instead of coming in every third series. Kentucky's favored by 1.5. I don't know that I want to watch this game. I feel sorry for the fans of both teams because I think it's going to be ugly. I just don't know how ugly. Does that make sense to y'all?
Yeah, absolutely. First to 10, first to a second digit on their scorecard. You know, that might be the winner. It's going to be ugly, but for Texas purposes, you might want to check it out just to see what the next couple of weeks entail on the Texas schedule.
Yep, for Florida. They got Florida coming to town in about a month now. What do you think, Rod? Kentucky, Florida?
I don't know. I'll take Kentucky. You know, I'll just because Kentucky's got some. They got some players on defense. I think got some good players. They got a couple of NFL guys on defense, and I'll say that in a battle of attrition, that they'll be at least run. Maybe they'll be able to run the football against Florida.
I will say this. This is interesting, right? Kentucky lost at home last week to Vanderbilt.
Mm-hmm. They did.
And now they're favored on the road against Florida.
You're right.
What does that say about Vanderbilt, who is Texas's next opponent? Vandy has Ball State. Listen to this. Vandy's favored by 25.5, according to my bookie. 25.5. Now, there were times where Vandy would have been the underdog to Ball State. I just gonna put that out there.
Mhm.
But that's one to watch. That's on ESPN Plus. That you can't even watch that on regular TV this week. But Vandy's that one. Last two SEC matchups. I just want to mention Auburn goes to Missouri. Missouri favored by 4.5. We'll see if they bounce back with a good win after that ugly loss to A&M down in College Station in the SEC play. And then A&M goes to Starkville in Mississippi State. I heard that Terry Bussey is out for this game. The Aggies, a really good freshman out of Timpson. What do y'all think about Mississippi State? They showed a little bit late against both Texas and Georgia last week. You think that maybe Mississippi State might be laying in the weeds there in Starkville?
I don't think so. But I think they can make it interesting. But I think the Aggies, with the defense, what the strides they've made on offense, I'll take the Aggies. I think the Aggies they have things that travel defense, and they got some line of scrimmage play that travels even to Starkville to Mississippi State. And it won't be. I know home field environments in the SEC, of course, all of them are intimidating. Mississippi State, this year, considering what we all expect from them and where they are as a program, it won't be a hostile environment by any stretch.
The one thing I would tell you about that, Rod, and mention, I don't know that Mike Elko has ever played this style of offense.
Okay. That's fair.
The Jeff Levy, maybe they played it once at Arkansas when Kendall Briles was at Arkansas and Elko was a defensive coordinator. But this is a little different style offense. And even though Elko is a premier defense coach, we believe, right, or at least a really good one, it'll be interesting because that can give people problems if you've never played it before, just unexpectedly. What do you think, CJ?
Yeah, A&M should roll in this game.
Yeah,
the one thing that maybe gives Mississippi State a bit of a, I don't want to say advantage, but some confidence is, hey, your first two starts for Michael Van Buren, and I don't know if there's been a tougher stretch to begin a career than on the road at number 1 Texas and then on the road at number 5 Georgia. You hung 31 on Georgia, and maybe there's some confidence in the offense there to say, hey, the last two teams that we've played are both top 5. They're playing this weekend. We scored 45 points on them combined. Hey, we can build on that. A&M's going to have a good offense. Wademan's looked really good a week ago. I expect A&M to win big, but if there's a silver lining for Mississippi State, maybe something to hang on to for MVB there is we played tougher teams, tougher environments. Maybe we have something with this offense.
I would say this is the one caveat to it as well, along with the fact that they're playing a new style of offense, Elko is that Wegman putting it all on his shoulders because, look, you're going to be able to find open receivers against Mississippi State. That they allow it. They don't rush the passer well. Putting all of that on Wegman hasn't necessarily always been a good thing for A&M.
Good point.
In the past. That being said, he looked really good against Missouri, so maybe he's starting to transition, right, and become that better player. But that's one for them. Again, they're favored by 16.5 in Starkville on the road.
Wow.
That's a lot of points.
Big number. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big number. All right, let's talk a little bit about some out of conference games. The one I circled actually is an in-state game because Baylor, Texas Tech, two former Southwest Conference and Big 12 foes for the Longhorns. Texas Tech at home. The game's at 3:00 on ESPN2. 6.5-point favorites for Texas Tech. Tech looks like they're trying to make a run at the Big 12 title, along with BYU and Iowa State right now. Y'all have any thoughts on Tech and Baylor? Baylor right now, Dave Aranda, swan song time, I think, for him if he doesn't win this game. I mean, he literally might get fired mid-year.
I've completely sold all my stock in Baylor. I'm actually trying to buy more in Texas Tech, and that's crazy to say after the loss to Eastern Washington, the overtime game at the ACU, but they look good, and I think they're one of 2 or 3 teams that
Eastern Washington or Washington State. There's big difference.
Washington State. Sorry, my bad there. But to Tech's credit, I think they're one of 2 or 3 teams in the entire country that have 4 FBS level wins right now, and they've gone to Arizona. They've gone to Arizona State. They've won some tougher Big 12 road games. They look like they might have something right here. Now, Baylor might have a season high in scoring output, but that's kind of what every team does against Tech. They just find a way to have 1 point more on the end of the day. So I like Tech in this game. I think they might have a chance to win that entire thing.
You think they might win the Big 12?
I like what I
Wow.
see. I like what I
That
see.
is big. That is
Man.
big.
Is that good or bad for the new look Big 12? I don't know.
I like Iowa State right now and BYU. I think they're playing the best brand of ball.
Iowa State looks good, man. They look good. I love that Matt Campbell has his best seasons when nobody has any expectations for his teams. Like when he can come out of nowhere, that's when he has his best teams. But when there's a lot of expectations and hype around his teams, they always underwhelm. Isn't that weird?
I mean, he had a starting running back for the New York Jets and a starting quarterback that is in the Super Bowl, and he went 4-7, or 5-7 that year.
It was crazy, man. It's crazy. But
yeah, I look. What Baylor, Texas Tech? Do you think Tech has a legit shot at the Big 12? Or are you favoring another team there, Rod?
Yeah, it's hard for me to take Tech that seriously.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, for me, I'll go with either Iowa State on that. Where's K-State and Oklahoma State in the running for the Big 12?
K-State's involved. Oklahoma State's DOA.
Oklahoma State's in the dumps.
Yeah.
So maybe a K-State. I don't know. Right now I'd say Iowa State because they're obviously undefeated. So I
think they've got the best quarterback in the Big 12. I really do. Iowa State, and they're running the ball well. They've got 2 NFL running backs, in my opinion, at Iowa State right now. A young guy too, along with Sanu, who scored State last year. Yeah, absolutely. Nebraska goes to Indiana. That's a Big Ten matchup where surprisingly Indiana.
Hey.
Yep. Indiana favored by 6.5, which is kind of surprising. And then you also have Miami, Louisville. That is a top 10 matchup for Miami. This is on the road. So if you're looking for an early morning upset, the game starts at 11 a.m. on ABC. I think Miami might be – they're only favored by 4.5. Louisville could get after them. All right, that's going to do it for this morning's Saturday conversation. We've talked a little bit of Longhorn football, a little bit of SEC football, and went around the roll. We've got a lot coming for you later today. Jerry Hamilton and I will be coming to you live from DKR. We're going to have a little pregame tailgate party, talk to you guys, and listen up and tell you about the scene inside DKR and around the area. Then we also have the in-game watch with us. Aaron Hogan leads the way with that. We appreciate him. Rod Babers, you'll be on that. And then post-game show, Rod, myself, as well as Brian Robeson will join in to talk a little Longhorn football. But for now, that's going to do it for the Saturday morning conversation. Thanks to our sponsor, MyBookie. Use code ONTexas, mybookie.ag. Rod, CJ, and our producer, Matt Hutchison. Hook 'em.